Hey everyone, this is Kieran from MSK Physio. Today's exercise is about developing some extension with our arm. So what that means is our ability to move our arm backwards. And in this case, we're kind of interested in our arm moving from this position to behind us. So if you've had some shoulder injuries and you feel like you need to strengthen the back of your shoulder or maybe your lats, then this will be a great option for you. So with the extension of the humerus, and that's relative to, say, our axial skeleton or, say, our shoulder blade, but then the shoulder blade's also going to extend a little bit as well because they're kind of coupled, or that extension is more of a retraction, but basically going behind us or moving that way. If you're not sure if the shoulder blade part is an issue, this is an exercise which can help that if you have the right weight. So if you go too heavy, you might find that the shoulder stays dipped forward, and as you pull, you're just getting the arm extension. To get also the shoulder blade extension, you need to be able to retract. If you can't do that, go lighter. If you're not sure, record yourself. And if you notice that you still can't do it, then watch some of our other videos on like how to build like your rhomboids or your middle traps as a precursor to being able to retract your shoulder blade so that you've got that ability to then couple it with the humeral extension. This is a really common row, and common means that it's used a lot, and if it's used a lot, it must be a useful exercise. Good logic there, but you're going to find it useful in just developing, say, your triceps ability to extend, your posterior delt, and as well as your lats, and then also a little bit of biceps as well, because there's a bit of a bicep curl element to it. So a couple options here. You could use a bench, or you could also use yourself. We're going to go through both of those and go over a couple different angles so you can see. This is 17.5 kilos. I would normally use like, 30-ish. So I'm going, about 60-ish%, 55, 60-ish% of the weight that I would normally use. So just be mindful that when you're first doing this exercise, use something that is friendly, get used to the movement, and then later on you can progress into some heavier weights. So to start with, what a lot of people will see is this kind of setup on a bench. And it means that I've got stability points of 3 points of contact. So I have an arm and both legs. If I show you from this other side, then it means I have more stability or more potential points of contact. From this angle, imagine that bench was coming this way. Obviously I've got a little more narrow here, but it's the same idea. Now, alternatively, you could make the stability a little bit less required on the bench and more required on you by stabilizing on yourself. And so now I have to use this hand on my knee, that's right above my kneecap, and I'm just holding down and pulling up this way. It just means it might be a bit trickier to get as horizontal. You might be a little bit more up this way. Pros and cons, not bad or worse, just something to think about with what you're training. So if we start in this position, remember that shoulder retraction thing I was talking about? So if I'm letting my arm dead hang and I retract just my shoulder blade, that's happening. Now it's not like it has to be isolated, because this is something that happens as my arm goes behind me. What can happen for a lot of people though, like I said, if they choose a weight that's too heavy for their shoulder blade retractors, then they just do the extension and they don't also get the retraction. Now, it's not to say that just doing the humeral extension is a bad thing. It's just going to create a little more stretch on the front of the shoulder, and depending on the weight and the reps and kind of what your pushing capacity is like, that could be irritable. So if you're finding you're getting pain at the front of the shoulder, then you probably really want to think about the retraction side of things, just so you're not getting as much lengthening through the front of the shoulder. So holding here, I'm going to try and push myself away from the bench. So my heel of my hand is pushing in, my leg is a little bit bent, but I'm really thinking about pushing myself away. I'm trying not to sink down, okay? So I'm creating some stability through this arm. Now as I got the weight, I'm just gonna think about pulling my shoulder up towards the sky and come back down. Same with my elbow. I'm just trying to touch the sky with my elbow. And if I don't do the shoulder blade retraction, it looks like this, okay? Not a bad thing. If I can get the whole thing happening, so I let the shoulder pull, I saw the weight pull my shoulder out of its socket, so to speak, and then I pull up. Okay? From this angle here, same idea, holding, letting the weight pull my shoulder down, and then retracting up, and trying the whole time to push through this hand for stability. Okay? If I did it on myself, then I'm creating stability through my leg here, and then I'm rowing, same thing. Yeah, from the side. Okay. Now, as far as what to do with my head and my eyes, depending on your neck position, I suppose it's going to affect how much range you have through your shoulder and your shoulder blade. And generally what we'll say is someone look reasonably neutral to the ground. That's okay. You can also look forward. You could look left, you could look right. As the weight gets heavier and heavier, you might need to create more stiffness through your spine. So you might be more inclined to just look straight down. But don't worry too much about the neck position. Just to give you an idea of the range. If I'm here, and if I look down at the ground, that's my range. If I look up like this, that's my range. And the difference of my head going down, I can get that extra bit of range that way, okay? And part of that just has to do with these muscles back here in my spine. When I'm pulling, my spine is also rotating and extending a little bit. And so if my head is looked up, that means that my upper thoracic is extending a bit. And so those muscles are preoccupied with extending that part of the spine and can't also assist the extension and rotation further down in here. If they're looking straight down, now I've got some slack up here, which means I can then shorten further down here. And if you want to know a little bit more about that sort of phenomenon, it's called passive or active insufficiency. In this case, active insufficiency. So it's hard to basically shorten the muscle at both ends. And by looking down, I allow it to stay a little bit long at the neck end, which means I can shorten more at the thoracic end. So just some consideration if you want to get the full range of the exercise. If you like this video, then please hit like below. Otherwise, to check out more of our content in the future, you can subscribe to our channel by clicking our logo over here. And to check out our latest video, click up here.